Hey, what's up guys, Oakley. I'm doing an online battle, and I've sort of gotten into the swing of multiplayer. At first I was not very used to the unit balance and all that, but here I'm going to make a suggestion. I think factions to go for are going to be Sparta, Macedon, Rome of course, and Egypt. Egypt I would recommend definitely going for heavy Galatian infantry. You'll find these are very, very strong. And that's kind of what Rome 2 is about right now, is getting your elite infantry in there. Some of the other units are a little bit broken or gimmicky. Anyways, what I recommend is have 2 of the elite spears, 4 or 5 of these Galatian swordsmen. They're very strong. Then get some units with armor penetration, because your opponent will be having elite units, so those are the axemen. Then get some cheaper spears. Definitely bring in some very cheap spears as well of your own, and definitely bring slingers. At least 1 or 2. You'll see these prove to be very, very useful. And then at least 1 or 2 cavalry. You could go for more, but I figure if I have spears and slingers, that'll be enough to ward off cavalry. But if you want to be more aggressive in landing your hammer and anvil strikes and gaining control of the battlefield, get more cavalry. But again, it kind of depends on the map if you have a lot of room for movement or not. So we're going to be fighting at Pella, and this battle is going to be kind of interesting. I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of the maps right now. Especially when you have them, some maps on default have fog or rain and you just can't see anything. This map is kind of interesting with the 2 little hills here, but I wish they had some sort of grassy flatlands with a couple trees, something with that, like kind of the left of this map. I wish they had that. Anyways, this map usually involves flanking around that main hill because of how the line of sight mechanism works, so there's always going to be someone sending their forces around the other side. And look how beautiful this looks. But yeah, they're going to be sending their forces around the other side. So what you want to do, obviously, is keep them from taking that hill. It's going to be very important. So what I like to do is position cavalry on the left. They're going to help me make the push. And then also I figure I'm going to put in one of my light spears there, as well as my Rhodian slingers. I want them up the hill. Because actually once these guys get up to close range on enemy units, it's like they're shooting guns at them. They have very high damage, and if you can get them on hill, then they can just shoot over your men at the players they're engaging. So that's why I want to take the hill. Then you can kind of see how I like to place my men out. I found that units getting tired happens much more quickly in Rome 2, so what you want to do is kind of stagger the way you deploy your infantry. So for example, here you can see I'm layering them because I'm going to kind of feed in my reserves strategically over time. I find that the elite infantry can actually hold their own for a pretty long time, and that's why you don't want to deploy all of them at the same time, because then they'll all get tired, and once they're all tired, then it's hard for them to maneuver, it's hard for them to engage a new enemy. So I would recommend holding some of your elite infantry in reserve. Hit Control G to keep them all in the same formation. I'm going to move out. So Macedon is going to have some companion cavalry on the right, and he's going to try and flank around me, and I'm going for the hill. Now I'm moving up with my cavalry and my slingers, and of course I want some spear support because I don't know what's going to be coming over the crest of the hill. So if anything goes wrong, I can just retreat back to my spears, and my slingers can cover me. So right now I see just a little bit coming out. He doesn't see my cavalry just yet, so he's going to keep moving up, but I'm not sure if he has spear support right behind it, so I'm going to be a little cautious. And as I crest the hill, I'm going to find out that he does not actually have too much coming up here, so I'm going to be able to just charge right down. This is my only cavalry unit, but I figure it's worth it to get some hits on his units here, especially if I'm going to be having my slingers up on the hill. It's going to make it that much more effective if they can function uncontested. So yeah, I'm going to engage his helots here, but he's moving up some spears, so I'm going to pull them out. At the same time, I'm going to fall back because his units, I don't want them to engage with me just yet. I'm going to pull back, move my spears up top, and pull these guys back because I want to take the hill first before I engage and put some pressure on his flank. You can see he's moving up here with his Spartans. I'm going to start deploying, moving to the high ground and getting a flank ready. Going to move my cav back, and yeah, my other forces are still retreating. You can see here, I'm going to tell my slingers to fire at him point blank. He sees he's outnumbered, and at this point he turns and runs, but that's good because my slingers and everyone can just keep shooting at his unprotected back. You can see his cavalry are going on a wide flanking move. So I keep my general on the very right facing outwards just to ward him off in case. Yeah, you can see here his units retreating, and these slingers are actually doing pretty good damage. You can see now his cavalry came out from the back. I did not see them, but that's why I kept my spears and my swords nearby, just to be able to ward him off. And right before these guys engage, I'm going to go ahead and set up all my reinforcements. You can see I'm funneling the rest of my men up to the hill, and I'm going to loop them all the way around in order to flank his men. You don't want to just send them directly from the bottom, because then you don't have the uphill advantage. And what I'm going to do now is tell my slingers to start attacking his men up here, and I want to make sure I outnumber him. So again, you're going to see here, I'm going to try and not engage everyone at once. So I'm going to use my already tired units up here and just one of these guys and hold the other ones off so I can flank. And what I'm going to do right here is pull my general, or yeah, my cav unit right there. I don't want them to stay engaged too long with his cavalry. If I have infantry nearby who can do the work themselves. And meanwhile, his main forces are going to keep moving up on me, so I'm going to pull back and try and take advantage of the hill position that I have. So his helots are shooting more and more at me, but that's okay. My slingers at point blank range are going to be able to do a good amount of damage. And what I'm going to be doing here is trying to secure this hill and get rid of his forces there. Once I have that, I can move up the rest of my forces and basically secure the hill and there attack his forces and be relatively secure. So I'm going to use my remaining cavalry to do hammer and anvil strikes. You want to make sure your shock cavalry are engaging, disengaging, engaging, disengaging, so you can get the shock bonus of those strikes over and over again. If they stay engaged too long, they're going to get whittled down. And I'm going to reform my slingers, put them on the crest of the hill, and they're kind of wavering because of the damage they've been taking from the helots, but they're holding their own. Now what I'm going to do is move my cav out. I'm going to try and protect them once more. And you can see he's moving up the main body of his forces again, so I'm going to have to move my infantry to the top of the hill. That's going to be the most advantageous position for me. At the same time, I have to keep an eye on his cavalry on the outer flank because they're going to be making a move coming back towards me. And he's going to start moving up his Spartan line, and he's going to start, moving that piecemeal. As I said, not deploying all of his forces at once for fear they'll get tired. And what I do here is actually my two infantrymen that were engaged, I actually disengage them. The reason I did that is because I figured they were tired fighting another tired unit, and that would be a grinding fest for a while. So what I do is I cycle them out and replace them with these new Galatian infantry who are fresh, and I figured because I'll send in fresh units right away, it'll do a good job of finishing off his Spartans, especially since those Spartans right there have put themselves into sort of a phalanx position, and I'm not going to make much headway attacking them head on. So what I'm going to do is try and flank all the way around. At the same time, he is pushing with his skirmishers on the lower end of the hill, so I'm going to have to retreat a little further back behind the crest. So yeah, he decides to move forward, and that's when I'm going to engage my two fresh units, one from the front to pin him, one from the flank to keep taking him out. He's moving more and more infantry, so I'm going to deploy one guy right there, and the rest I'm going to try and swing around the side. At the same time, I see he does have some cover in the back, so I'm going to move my spearmen there. And as you can see right here, I'm hiding behind the crest of this hill. He's shooting at my general. He has high armor, so that's not going to get him anywhere. And yeah, you can see right here, I don't want to just engage everyone. You always, at least fighting against phalanxes, you want to engage just one of your units and make sure you flank. Otherwise, if you attack everything headlong, that's when you're going to lose. So now my opponent's moving his cavalry, he's moving his main Spartan body, and he's waiting with those extra cavalry back there. So what I'm going to do, move my slingers right there to be able to engage his cavalry on the far side. And then over here, what I'm going to do is start targeting his peltas and his other helot units right there. And I'm going to start engaging his blob here from the flanks, from the side, and try and do an encirclement. His cavalry are moving up here. I'm going to get my slingers to shoot at them in case they try to retreat. And now what we're going to have to do is move our cavalry, and make sure to throw off his cavalry that are moving around the side, and just keep flanking with all my units. You can see I'm, with some units, moving around the backside. At the same time, he does have those units on the low ground that will start doing damage, and I want to ward them off as soon as possible. So yeah, you can see what I've done here. Some units to hold him off, and then the rest are going to be moving around the flanks and doing a good amount to actually hold them off. Even though these are spears I'm fighting, you can see because I've taken these heavily armed infantry, the Galatian spearmen, they're actually very, very strong. On the low ground, my general is getting charged by his troops. I engage everything, rally my army, and try and hold down that cavalry flank. Because he's engaging some of my elite hoplites or spear units right there, it's not going to be a very effective charge. And now you can see I'm just funneling more and more men around the side. So, lesson to be learned here would be to, well, of course, try and take the hill as soon as possible. That's an advantage that you can't give to your enemy. But if it were just normal terrain, what you should do is use your heavy infantry, and don't feel like you have to engage all at once. You can engage one of these infantry as long as they don't get outflanked and surrounded. You can engage them sort of 1 or 2 at a time to hold down the enemy and let everyone get tired out, and then add in some fresh units either into the central grinding fest, but more importantly around the sides, especially deploying your armor penetrating units and your cheaper units around the flank is going to be very important. Now I'm kind of chasing down his units on the far side, but I don't have enough to take on all of his slingers and ranged units. So what I'm going to have to do is make sure I win this battle right here outright, and then I have no worries about taking out the rest of his men. So I'm waiting for my cooldowns to end. At the same time, my slingers are reforming, and I'm going to try and knock out his cavalry. What you want to do in this game is make sure you can kind of, as rapidly as possible, eliminate certain forces. So when you have these slingers and the combat is already engaged, you can use them to help hasten the defeat of one end of your enemy. So if it's cavalry and they stick out a bit higher than your infantry, go ahead and give them a couple shots. They'll retreat. The units engaged on your side then will be able to be free and help out the rest of units, and then they can gang up another unit, and then those units are free, and you can kind of keep going along the line, saving your entire army. So that's what I would recommend. You can see now I've crushed the forces at the top of the hill, and now I'm going to have free reign to go and charge down. Once my slingers even start shooting at his cavalry, they're going to start panicking and retreating. And they're broken, so now I'm going to just have to mop up this battle. Won't be too hard. Galatian infantry, as you can see, some of them are pretty untouched. They're doing very, very well. My axemen, I lost one of them. The other one is down to 1/3 of its strength, and I still have some of my cheap spearmen running around. So, you know, all in all, it showed that the Galatian spearmen or swordsmen had a very good staying power when it came to fighting even Spartans. So those are very good units. But again, don't let them get tired, and make sure you use them to flank around. There's no need to put more than one unit fighting at the very front of an engagement. Always look to flank, and at the same time, keep your eyes on the enemy around the battlefield. Put your cheap spearmen that I recommend you bring around the backs, and you know, if his cavalry are coming up the side, ward them off with your spears, and if they're just standing there, try and ward them off even further with your slingers. Otherwise, use your slingers to pick off strategic units. Once your units are engaged with the enemies, make sure you're putting suppressing fire on the enemy. That'll help break them. Or if he has some skirmishers or other units you feel like you should engage, then go ahead and put your slingers into the woods so that they take less hits, and then start firing from there. That'll prove to be most effective. So here's his last group of Spartans here, and yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and watch this charge from up close. You can see these guys are getting hit by all sorts of arrows, but they don't even fall. So these guys are very, very heavily armored, especially when you give them a couple upgrades. And you can see once they start swarming a unit like this, even the Spartans will basically break in, I think that was like 5 seconds. So yeah, that's going to be my strategy for the day, what I recommend doing. Hope you enjoyed. I will see you guys next time. This weekend, actually, I'm going to be in New York, so I've probably put this on a scheduled video. But anyways, I'll see you guys around. Peace out.